I remember when we were doing Days of Future Past and the ideas were coming for it, that I'd really decided that I wanted to write a piece about the afternoon. And it was a lovely spring day, and I was near where I lived in Swindon in Wiltshire in the west of England. And I literally took my acoustic guitar, and went out and sat in the middle of a field on a beautiful afternoon and just started writing this song.
Tuesday afternoon, I'm just beginning to see. Now I'm on my way. It doesn't matter to me, chasing the clouds away. Something calls to me. The trees are drawing me near. I've got to find out why. Those gentle voices I hear explain it all with a sigh. I'm looking at myself, reflections of my mind. It's just the kind of day to leave myself behind, so gently swaying through the fairyland of love. If you just come with me, you'll see the beauty of Tuesday afternoon. Tuesday
Well, this used to be, and it still looks exactly the same as it did then. This is Decker 1 in West Hampstead, London. And this is where it all started, really, all the Moody Blues albums, that is.
DRAM, which was our label, had brought out this thing called Dynamic Super Sound, which was, in actual fact, just ordinary stereo. But stereo was quite the coming thing, quite new then.
And they asked us, along with Peter Knight and the Festival Orchestra, to make a demonstration album, just for their reps to take into a shop and you know, let them listen to this new dynamic stereo system.
And they wanted us to do a rock version of Dvorak's New World Symphony while an orchestra played Dvorak. And we said, yeah, sure. If we can just have 5 days in the studio without anybody else coming in.
But of course there was us sitting with our 45-minute stage show, which just happened to slot in really, really nicely.
And they flonked Days of Future Past, and they all said, well, who's going to buy that? They couldn't categorise it, you see. It's not classical, it's not pop. They didn't, they had to have a pigeonhole to slot everything in.
It became one of the albums that you had to have in your collection. It didn't necessarily mean that people went out and bought it in the weeks necessary to get it in the charts.
But I remember we were driving into the studios, I think it was to make In Search of the Lost Chord. But we were driving into the studios and Justin was giving me a lift, and he was a bit sad, and you know, and I said, that's just too good, something's going to happen to it. It's just too good. And it's the first time I've ever been right.
Well, we're in a theatre called Saddler's Wells Theatre, which is in East London, centre of East London. And it's really a cultural kind of mecca here, and for me, the Moody Blues reached a high point of sort of critical acceptance in Great Britain here in 1969, spring of 1969. And I can remember, I haven't been to this theatre since, but I can remember it very clearly being on the stage down here. And it was a wonderful evening. Everybody's families were here, and we did a double-header gig. And it was, like I say, it was the peak of our sort of acceptance by the whole sort of intellectual sort of establishment in music as well in Great Britain.
When we came back with the real Moody's, we were then sort of a real good second on the bill choice. We could be counted to put a few thousand people on the house.
We had to sort of start to build a reputation for ourselves. We weren't on, you know, pop hit type of radio. We were starting to get played on FM radio, so our base was really through the clubs and colleges across America. That's the psychedelic. We played all the sort of psychedelic supermarkets, you know, the electric factories. We did a lot of free concerts. We'd play anywhere. You know, we never knew that you had to get a plane if you wanted to go from New York to San Francisco. You know, we just drove everywhere.
That was very interesting. You know, we were playing in small clubs and not knowing where the gig would be in 4 days' time. This was in the period when Nights was out but hadn't hit.
Sometimes we got paid, sometimes we didn't, you know, and just paid as we went along. We just collected gigs and paid our own way.
The thing, it sort of happened all of a sudden. I mean, Justin will always say the same thing. You know, we used to be second on the bill, you know, backing up, you know, Cream or various artists in Candy to be backed. And one day we turned up at a stadium and we were top of the bill. That was it.
And it was a big stadium, and Van Morrison was on the bill. Now, Van Morrison, big star, you know, 60s. And I went to see the promoter with our roadie, and I said, what time are we on? And he said, well, you guys, you don't go on till about 11 o'clock. So we said, oh, late start. He said, no. He said, you know, you're closing the show. I said, well, this is Van Morrison. No, you know, this is Moody Blues crowd. This is your crowd. And they really were. They were a Moody Blues crowd.